Hello students, in the last class we have studied the fundamental characters of phylum Chordata or chordates. In this class we are going to study about the classification of chordates. Well, the phylum Chordata is actually have three subphylums. In that first subphylum is actually Urochordata, and another one subphylum is Cephalochordata, and third subphylum is Vertebrata. Out of these three subphylums, the Urochordata and Cephalochordata together we say it as a Protochordata. Urochordata and Cephalochordata. These together call it as a Protochordata. Chordata means, you know that what is the meaning of chordata. Chordata means the animal which have notochord, we say it as a chordata. The term chordata is actually come from notochord. If an animal have notochord, we actually say it is a chordate. Okay, so the Urochordata and Cephalochordates together we say it as a Protochordata, or the animals which have the characters of Urochordata, Cephalochordata, we call it as Protochordates. So why they actually call it as a Protochordates? Because say compared to the subphylum Urochordata, Cephalochordata, vertebrates are much more evolved and they have much more complexity in body structures. And where here Euro and cephaloforms are actually, they are very simple and they are actually considered a primitive chordates. Okay, before evolution or development of vertebrates, Urochordates and cephalochordates are the ancestors of the chordates, or they are actually much more primitive than the vertebrates. So that's why they are together called as a protochordata. Okay, so these protochordates and that is Urochordata, Cephalochordata, Vertebrata. All of these, out of these three subphylums, the Vertebrata subphylum is considered one of the largest subphylum in the chordates. Okay, Vertebrata is called as the largest subphylum out of three subphylums of chordates. Okay, so this subphylum Vertebrata is again further classified into two divisions. Okay, the first division is actually called as Agnatha. Okay, and the second division is actually called as a Gnathostomata. The first division of the vertebrata is actually Agnatha. Second division is Gnathostomata. Okay, so this division Agnatha is again have one class. Okay, class. This is class. Okay, that is Cyclostomata. Cyclostomata. Stomata. Cyclostomata. Okay, so this is actually a class of division Agnatha. So I forgot to mention. I forgot to mention the class of Agnatha. So that's why I have written here. So while writing the classification, please do remember division Agnatha have a class Cyclostomata. So while writing the classification, you should write the class Stomata just below the Agnatha division. Okay, so that is the classification of division Agnatha. Whereas the division Gnathostomata, okay, Gnathostomata is again further divided into two superclasses. Okay, the superclass 1, which is includes spices, which is nothing but fishes, whereas another one superclass, that is tetrapoda. Okay, whereas superclass of 1, which is spices means fishes, again have two classes. One is Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. Okay, these are the two classes of superclass spices division Gnathostomata. Okay, subphylum Vertebrata. So if you remember, I told you division Agnatha have only one class, that is Cyclostomata, whereas Gnathostomata have further division, that is division is classified into super classes, and super classes further divided into class. In the class spices we have two classes, superclasses, Pisces, Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes, whereas superclass Tetrapoda have 4 classes. That includes class Amphibia, class Reptilia, class Aves, class Mammalia. Okay, so these are the classification of phylum Chordata. Each one of them have their own meaning and say own structures. So all these characters will be studied in detail. Now I am going to explain the term meaning of all these classifications of phylum divisions briefly, because in further classes again you have same concepts in detail. So that's why I am going to explain you all these terms briefly. Okay, so the first phylum, that is Urochordata. So first of all, why we call it as a Urochordata? Because the term Euro is actually derived from a Greek word. Aura means tail, means where here the notochord is only confined to the tail region, means they have a notochord which is only restricted to the tail region. Means you could say these animals have, or Urochordates, they have notochord, but it is very restricted to the tail region, especially in the larva stage. So as you can see here, the best example for the Urochordata is Herdmania. So Herdmania is a marine form actually. When it is in the larva stage, it is actually shows motility, means it's actively moving animal in the marine water. When they are in the active, and when they show some motility, of course, they have tail structure, which is a basic character of a chordate. So, in the tail region, they have notochord, but as they become adult, they become sedentary. Means they will start to settle in any specific region, so that their body, tail will start to reduce, and the body structure will become like this. In this picture, as you can see here, this is an adult Herdmania or adult Urochordata. Herdmania is an example for Urochordata. Okay, so that's why they actually have notochord, but is only restricted to the tail region. Okay, that's why they actually called as a Urochordata. Okay, so this is the first subphylum. And Tunicata means, Urochordates are also called as a Tunicata, means the animals which are actually comes under the Urochordate, they are actually called as tunicates. What is the meaning of this term? What are tunicates? You will go into study in the further class, because you have separate concept to study under the title Urochordata. Okay, so next subphylum, which is Cephalochordata. Cephalochordata is, cephalo means is again term Greek word which is cephalon, means head region. That means notochord is extend throughout the body, which is present just beyond the nerve cord. Means they actually notochord is present just above the uh, nerve cord, and these animals, they actually have well defined notochord structure. Okay, plus they have well defined head region. That's why they are called as a Cephalochordata. The best example for this Cephalochordata is Amphioxus. If you remember the last class, so I have given you a picture of an animal which was called as a lancelet. If you remember, lancelet. Okay, lancelet is also called as Amphioxus. The scientific name of lancelet is Amphioxus. So if you see the last video, the picture of animal, which is it's pinkish in color, I have several slides actually have the same animal picture, that is actually Amphioxus. That's why I have not actually added here this animal photo. Okay, so Cephalochordata means, well, they have, some have well defined head region, where they and plus they have a complete notochord which extends from head region to up to tail region. And these animals is actually called as a typical chordate, because these animals have all the basic fundamental characters of chordate. Okay, so the second phylum is Cephalochordate. Before going to the vertebrates, say you know that Urochordates, Cephalochordates, they're actually called as the protochordates. The animals are examples which comes under these two subphylums are very less, and these are very primitive creatures, and they are still surviving in this nature from several thousands of years. Okay, so if they are primitive, that means we can say that they are actually surviving, or they are much more ancestor than vertebrates. Okay, so next subphylum, which is vertebrata. I think vertebrata, you are all familiar with this subphylum, because even human beings, where actually comes under the subphylum vertebrata, right? So these vertebrata have two divisions. The first division is agnatha and second division is gnathostomata. First of all, what is the agnatha means? Actually the absence these actually class have, they don't have any jaw structure. And if you remember, I told you that, say, this class actually have only one class, which we call it a cyclostomata. Okay, so cyclostomata includes such animals which don't have any jaw structure in their mouth, or you can say that jawless animals. What is this jawless animals? So jawless means we all have jaws, right? We all have jaws, and our jaw have teeth, right? Whereas here in these animals, as you can see here, this is and one of the example of what you can say cyclostomata, means which comes under the division agnatha, which is actually a petromyzon, which we call it as a petromyzon. Okay, petromyzon. So this is actually a marine form which actually have cyclic mouth or circular shaped mouth. Okay, cyclostomata, cyclo means circular shaped mouth without any jaws, we actually call as a cyclostomata. So sorry, cyclostoma. Well, this animal is a petromyzon, is one of the example for cyclostomata. This animal, it actually looks like a fish, but this is not actually a fish. Okay, so these animal, they actually have circular shaped mouth. As you can see here, this is a circular shaped mouth, plus they don't have any jaw structure. They actually have teeth, but these teeth, they are not present within the sockets of jaw. Instead, their dentition or small teeth like structure will be just present on the surface of a skin. Okay, that's why they are actually called as jawless animals, or cyclo or agnatha. Agnatha means jawless. Okay, and the division 2, which is gnathostomata. Gnathostomata is nothing but presence of jaws, which is totally opposite to the agnatha. Gnatha, agnatha, gnathostomata, where here animals have jaws, and these jaws have dentition. Okay, and you know that, see, these gnathostomata again further classified into two super classes, which is Pisces and Tetrapoda, right? So the super class Pisces majorly includes two classes, which is Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes. What is this Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes? It's very simple. This Chondrichthyes and Osteichthyes, they are actually simply commonly we say it as for Chondrichthyes we actually call as a cartilage fishes. For Osteichthyes we commonly call it as a bony fishes. Cartilage, bony fishes. Cartilage and bony fishes are nothing but, say, bony cartilage fishes are, so cartilaginous bony fishes. Cartilage fishes are, all of them are marine forms. Means whatever the fishes you see in the marine water, they're all cartilaginous fishes. Most of them are. Okay. Whereas bony fishes, don't think that all the marine, right, all the marine fishes are actually cartilage fishes. Whereas the fishes which you see in the fresh water, they are actually um, bony fishes. What is the difference between the cartilage fishes? What is the difference between the bony fishes? We will going to study in the Pisces, okay, in detail. So that's why I'm not going to explain you in detail. But remember one thing: Chondrichthyes are also called as the cartilaginous fishes, and bony fishes are nothing but Osteichthyes, which are one of them. As you can see here, you can see this body shapes and structures. Okay, so that is about the Pisces. Okay, Pisces. So you have studied the division Ignatha, which have only one class, which is Cyclostomata, which have one example, which is Petromyzon. Okay, and I have given the Petromyzon. And you have another one exam, which is Mixin, which is not needed now because it makes you much more confusion, gives you much more confusions. That's why I won't explain you in detail. Okay, and the Pisces superclass have two classes, Conductus and Ostinctus. Conductus and Ostinctus, they commonly called as, whereas here Conductus also called as cartilage fishes, and Ostinctus are also called as bony fishes, right? And the superclass Tetrapoda, which is very familiar to all, have four classes, which is Amphibia. Amphibia, you know that, which is frog, right? So amphibians are nothing but animals which live in both water and land. They actually called the amphibians. See, as you can see here in the superclass Pisces, it includes only such animals which are live in water. Remember one thing, up to the phylum, up to the class Ostinctus, say from Urochordata to class Ostinctus, up to this group, whatever the examples, whatever the animals comes under these groups, they are all living in water, especially in the marine water. Of course, except Ostinctus, all these animals, they live in marine water, or you can say they are aquatic forms. Totally, they are exclusive for aquatic media. Whereas when you come to the superclass Tetrapoda, gradually the animals, they started to live, or they started to move outside from the water media, and that group we call it as a class Amphibia, which lives in both water and land. And the best example for this, frogs, right? They live in both water media and even the land, right? Whereas next of class, which is reptiles or reptilia, you know that reptiles are completely terrestrial forms. Means these are from the aquatic media, uh, amphibians are formed. From amphibia, now we have animal which totally lives in the land. Means they only survive in the land, which we call it as reptiles or reptilia. And you know the several examples, like for example lizard, snake, all these animals, they live in the land, right? Next, which is a totally different animal, which is aves. After here you have studied the animal, they started to live in the land, live on the surface of the land. Now the birds started to adopt it for life, for aerial mode of life, and that class of animals are called as aves. Okay, these class of these group of animals, they started to live even on the land, and even they are adapted for aerial mode of life. That means they can fly, which is a very spectacular group, which we call as an aves, right? And the last class of the superclass Tetrapoda, which is Mammalia. A mammal, you know that human beings, cow, buffalo, whatever you see, majorly see in our environment, they are actually are mammals, right? Mammals are nothing but the animals which have mammary gland. Okay, such animals are called as mammals. Okay, and these animals, they actually adopted for terrestrial mode of life. So some you may think that, say, aves or if the reptiles are evolved from amphibians, that means we are actually evolved from apes, right? No, that is not true. We are actually evolved from not human beings, not directly, but mammals and aves together. They are actually evolved from reptiles. Okay, both mammals and aves are evolved from reptiles. Means some of the animals which are actually group of reptiles, they gradually adopted themselves and they started to show the features of aves, whereas some of the animals, they actually totally adapted to terrestrial mode of life and they started to show the characteristic features of mammals. In this way, from the reptiles, we actually the animals divided into two branches, and these divided two branches were developed as one as aves and another one as mammals. Okay, so by this we can say that, say, from the aquatic life, chordates are gradually adapted to terrestrial mode of life and finally to the aerial mode of life. So this is how the creatures are evolved, and this evolution took several thousands of years, and still these animals are evolving. Okay, so how these animals have different characteristic features, how they their function takes place, all these will be going to study in the further classes. So in the next class you are going to study one of the subphylum, that is first subphylum of the phylum Chordata. So up to that, I think this concept you understood really well, I hope that. So so before going to next class, please do study this concept classification, because it's very much important. Okay, so that's all for today's class. Thank you.